What's up, football fans? Week 16 is officially underway, and we're here to talk all about the upcoming week and the next couple weeks. Will the Bills win out and be number one seed in the AFC? Will the Lions hang on to the first seed in the NFC? We got tidbits. We got football conversation. This is more of just a Packers podcast. This is an NFL conversation. So grab yourself a drink. It is time to pour ourselves another overtime finger point. So I'm watching the Bucks. They're winning. They're up by 16 points with 5 minutes to go in the fourth quarter. So I think they're going to take care. I love seeing. We had a little bit of a talk. We maybe monitor basketball around a little bit of playoff basketball. Did you watch any of the Bucks championship run a few seasons ago? Were you at all interested in that, or was that in the background?
I watched some of it. Yeah. And I do have to say this. So I definitely am a Bucks fan. Like I'm from Wisconsin. Obviously I'm a Milwaukee Bucks fan, but my favorite team, mainly because of one specific player, is the Golden State Warriors.
You didn't even let me guess.
Oh, sorry.
I got on the Golden State Warrior bandwagon.
You could guess my favorite, who the player is.
Is it Curry?
Yes. But so I tell people that, and a lot of people think that I was just a bandwagon fan when they got really good and started winning a bunch of championships. But honestly, I first became a Warriors fan when I was a freshman in college, which was back when Curry was first drafted, and they were not good. They were not championship caliber. So I do have a Steph Curry jersey. I bought it back then, freshman year of college, which was 2010, 2011. So, yes. Speaking of dating myself, you had a stat. What was the stat about Edgerrin Cooper having a sack and an interception? Hasn't been done since 91. And you're like, what? And he was born in 2001. I was born in 91. So date myself a little bit. I almost said it, but I was like, I don't need people knowing how old I am.
First time in your lifetime that's happened. That's impressive. Yeah. I'll say I wholeheartly admit I was fully on the Warriors bandwagon. When Steph was making those crazy 3-point shots and game winners, and it was the back throws with Thompson and Green, and
he's just so fun to watch. He's so fun to watch play. I could watch highlight videos of Steph Curry for hours. He's just so fun to watch, and he's the best shooter to ever play. So that's why I'm a Warriors fan. But the Bucks, I mean, if it's not the Bucks, or if it's not the Warriors, then yeah, definitely the Bucks.
So what do you do? How do you get your sport fix when the NFL season ends?
Ooh.
That's why I watch basketball. That carries me until June, and then we get this weird June, July, a little bit of, there's like nothing for me. I hate baseball. I think baseball is the worst sport ever. It's so boring. So overrated.
You have the Super Bowl in February, right? And then you have a little bit of a break before March Madness, right?
Yep.
I'm big into March Madness. I don't watch college basketball all season long, and then March Madness hits, and I'm like researching like crazy to fill out my bracket.
Yeah. That Charlie Day meme where he's got a bunch of shit all over the back.
Yeah. So you got March Madness, and then after that, I find it difficult to find a sport that I enjoy watching. There has been quite a surge in these like spring, summer football leagues. So you got I don't even know the acronyms, or
XFL?
So there's the XFL, there's the USFL, So there's been more of those. So I've dabbled a little bit in that stuff, but none of it has been good enough to hold my interest. Baseball, I agree with you. Baseball is very difficult to watch on TV. I played baseball in high school, so I love baseball based on, playing the game, but it's really hard to watch a game on TV. If you're
Right.
there at the ball field, it's
Yeah, it's enjoyable.
it's fun, but
It's like any
watching.
sport, though. I mean, I could probably be at a tennis match, pickleball,
Sure.
bowling. I'd be at a bowling event probably at the time of my life, honestly, but I wouldn't.
Honestly, an NFL game is probably more enjoyable watched on TV.
Thank you.
I mean, maybe not at Lambeau just because of the atmosphere and the fun that you have pre-game and during the game and after the game. Like that's a whole different aspect. But actually watching the game, going to an NFL game, you definitely have fun, but it's not the same. It's not the same as watching it on TV with the angles that you get, the replays that you get. Like I mean, going to a Packer game, yes, I'll take that any day, but it's a lot of times it's better watching it on your TV.
I get asked all the time, "Are you going to a game this year? Are you going to a game?" And I'm like, "No." Like I go to one game probably every other year just to kind of remember. And when you walk in, it's all Lambeau Field. This is
Yeah.
awesome. This is great. But as far as watching the game, I don't enjoy that part of it. I'm looking at the jumbotron half the
Right.
time. I don't really know like where the ball landed or if it's what down and distance we really have. I rather watch the game on TV. But you're right. Like some of my best memories are the tailgating and everything that happens before and after the
Yeah.
game than what happens
I
during the game.
I haven't been to Lambeau in years now. The last time I was at Lambeau, it was actually back when you and I worked together. Um, I got lucky enough that season. Excuse me. I got lucky enough that season. I went to 3 games. I went to it was a night game. I think it was a Sunday night against the Giants, regular season against the Giants. And then I went to Christmas Eve against the Vikings at Lambeau. And then through our work, do you remember that year that we played? It was like a contest. We played a bunch of games in the conference room. And
Take your word for it. Sounds like something we do.
yeah, and then at the very end of it, like me and someone else had tied or something, and our boss held the tickets behind his back and let me pick which hand, and I just picked right. So I got to go to the playoff game against the Giants. That was the one where I
Randall
think there was
Cobb?
the Randall Cobb Hail Mary. Yep. So I was at that game too. So that year I
Giants
got to
have
go
not
to
made the playoffs since that game. The entire
That's
team
pretty
fell
wild.
apart.
Yeah. All thanks to the Packers. Same thing with the Dallas Cowboys after last year.
Well, good point. Good point.
Yeah.
We should probably
Yeah.
talk about some football, right? You want to talk about a little bit of football?
I mean, we're talking
Actually,
football. This is the fun conversation about football, right? All the memories, all the fun stuff. This is like sitting in the garage with a couple of beers. This is what you talk about, right?
probably one of my best memories. I mean, I got a lot, but my dad and I, it was week 18 of last year. The Packers beat the Bears and they're in the playoffs. They had that home game and it was like a Tuesday night. And I'm like, I wonder how much tickets are. And I found, $200 a ticket, good seats. And I just messaged my dad and he's like, that would be fun, but probably not. I'm like, really? So he messaged me like a half hour.
$200?
Yeah, he messaged me a half hour later and goes, well, did you buy them? I'm like, no, because you were all teeter-tottering all over the board. He's well, now I kind of want to go. So we ended up spending like $350 because those tickets sold. Now we were determined to go. And we went there. It was a night game, an afternoon game, 3:00. We got there at 11 and started drinking. And I'd never seen my dad that drunk in his life. He was stumbling into Lambeau Field at kickoff. They obviously won. Fireworks went off. We made the playoffs. It was Jordan Love's first season. It was like it was everything leading up to the game and the story behind the game. It wasn't so much watching the game in person, and that's why we love this sport. It's, I guess, is where I'm going with that. Yeah.
That's why we love Green Bay.
That's why we love.
Let's be clear. The NFL experience is not the same everywhere. That's only an experience you get at Lambeau Field. You don't get that at every stadium.
And to that point, my brother went down to Florida. This was early November and went to the Buccaneers-Niners game at Tampa Bay. And they showed up early thinking that there'd be like tailgating going on, kind of like Lambeau. There was, but it wasn't as like friendly, where you can walk into a random group of people and just start a small conversation and have some drinks. Like everyone was like blocked off from each other. Nobody wanted to commingle. And then they thought that they could, like at Lambeau, there's a bunch of shops to buy t-shirts and jersey all the way around the stadium. So they thought that they could buy some Tampa Bay shirts or something. None of that. They had to go to the pro shop. And then they got there and 98% of the stadium is in the sunlight. Luckily, their seats, they did research and got shade, but everyone's just baking there in 90-degree sunlight watching. You're right. There's nothing like Lambeau. So for the 15 of you that watch Overtime who have not been to Lambeau Field, go, because Lambeau Field is a magical, magical place.
Totally worth it.
And totally worth it. So what do you got for tidbits? I got some ideas of things to talk about.
Let's
push.
Let's start off Overtime with something that we talked about off camera last week. Something that happened prior to the Seahawks game. Something that a buddy of mine who watches the podcast, thank you, Christian, for watching. Yes, his name is Christian as well. Nope, it's not me. I was not talking to myself. I only do that like 3 times a day. But yeah, so Christian's a buddy of mine from back when I was in the National Guard. Oddly enough, there was actually a third Christian in our same company. There's 3 of us, but we call each other by our last name anyway, so it never was an issue. But anyway, Christian brought up, he texted me and said, "Hey, you should talk about what happened with Brett Favre this week." Last week he said that. Honestly, don't even remember the guy's name. The guy who scolded Brett Favre for and claimed that he took a dive to
And that's exactly why the guy is upset, all right? Because now nobody knows his name. He's completely forgotten. He's not the sack leader in the NFL anymore. And that's why he was so pissed off at Brett.
Yeah, so this guy scolded Brett Favre he claims that Favre took a dive to let Michael Strahan break the all-time sack record that this other guy held. And there was video of it, and Favre just looked like stunned, like, okay, like I don't know.
He was hitting first, and then he was like, "Wait, you're serious?" Or shit. I wish I wouldn't have walked up to you and said hello at this point.
Yeah, and my buddy Christian mentioned that there's like a ESPN 30 for 30 out there about this guy. I wish do you remember his name?
Irrelevant. No, I don't.
I don't remember his name, but there was a 30 for 30 out there or something like that it talked about his season, or was it the season sack record or all-time sack record?
Season sack record.
Sure. So the season that he got the sack record, there was a 30 for 30 out there that said there were teammates that were interviewed that said they hated the guy because he didn't care what the defense was doing. He didn't care if the team won or lost. He was just focused on getting a sack. So for this guy to be that way when he did it, and then to now, years later, come out and say, "Brett Favre, you screwed me over." I mean, come on. Like, Strahan wasn't going to get that final sack. Like, it was going to happen. Like, whether Favre took a dive or not, who cares? Like, just give up, man. It was like, it felt like it was it was the only thing he had to his name, and he feels that Brett Favre took that away from him. And now years later, when it's completely irrelevant, Strahan's not even in the league anymore. None of them are in the league anymore. And now he's making a big deal out of it. Like, come on.
Should Brett Favre have wrote an apology letter?
I don't know. I mean, Favre's had some quite a few negatives over the years. So maybe it wasn't a bad idea for him to come out and apologize, even if he didn't have to, you know?
Yeah. I don't know. I don't think I thought I thought we've moved on from the apology chore. I think you
Yeah.
don't need to, it happened. It is what it is. It took place 15 years ago. Like why Brett Favre was writing an apology letter on social media, that seemed really odd, but he wanted to. He cleared the air for whatever result that came after that. We don't know, but I just thought it was super rare that he did that. And why even go through the trouble?
Yeah. And did you read
He has
through the
to run
whole?
into he hasn't run into the guy for 15 years. So like
Right.
why does it matter to him that
Yeah. We don't have to spend more time on it. I just wanted to. We had a viewer that said,
we
"Hey, you should talk about this." So I thought we should definitely talk about it because we love our viewers. We love all of you that check out our content, our episodes, whether it's
comment,
the main or the overtime.
subscribe,
Let's see your comments.
hit the bell
Yeah.
notification, do it all. Yeah, it was worth talking about. I mean, anytime a previous Packers quarterback makes the news, it's probably worth talking about, which brings us to Aaron Rodgers. His new Netflix documentary, Enigma, went live today, Tuesday, as of
Oh,
recording.
really?
Yes, I will watch it. I have not watched it yet. I have a day job that prevents me from just watching Netflix all day. I might have it on in the background tomorrow. Not really Christmas material, but it's probably we'll have to talk about it next week. Try to watch some episodes if you can throughout this next week, and maybe we'll circle back around. But it's him doing ayahuasca. It's him and all sorts of just the crazy Aaron Rodgers that he's become. So I'm curious what will come from this.
I didn't dig into it too much, but did I see Garrett Wilson was all upset about something and Rodgers was just sulking on the bench? I don't know. Yeah, so I saw a clip over the weekend. So the Jets did win this last weekend, but I saw a clip that Garrett Wilson came to the sideline and he was yelling at a coach, like complaining about not getting the ball or something like that. And then the next camera angle was Aaron Rodgers on the bench by himself, hat on, just sitting there, just like sulking. So I don't know if it was a bad drive or a drive that ended like in a field goal that it shouldn't have or something like that. But I don't know. Even though the Jets won, that it's still a dumpster fire. It'll be very interesting to see what happens there over the offseason and next year.
Devontae, 198
Yeah.
yards and 2 touchdowns, his second highest receiving game of his career. So that's what it took
So-
to beat the shitty team they played.
So again, I didn't dig into this too much, but if Garrett Wilson was pissed off on the sideline, I'm going to say I called it again.
He did.
With Devontae Adams coming to town, that Rodgers would funnel everything to Devontae Adams and Garrett Wilson would get pissed off about it. And
They won.
they won. Yes, but
I mean, that's what it takes. That's
Should. Yeah, I don't know. It's pretty crazy what has happened there.
Yeah, I quit paying attention. I did pick them last week, but to your point of you called it, sure be nice to get more viewers because I had some insightful shit last week that came to fruition in that Seattle game, and you've had your fair share of insightful shit as well throughout the last few weeks. And you know what
People
I'm
will
talking
catch
about?
on eventually. People will catch on eventually. All it takes is someone to catch one little tidbit and for it to be correct, and then they'll be hooked and be like, well, I got to listen to these guys every week because they know what they're talking about.
Apparently. Sometimes I surprise myself. And what do you want to say?
No, go ahead.
Speaking of things that we know what we're talking about, do you ever use the ESPN NFL playoff machine to predict the rest of the remaining weeks of the NFL season and where these playoff seedings are going to shake out?
I didn't know that was a thing.
So a couple things that I discovered. Yeah, I'm going to send you the link for it because I do it every year towards the end of the year to try and see how the what I think the seedings are going to be or who I need to win. If the Packers don't control their own destiny, okay, we need this team and all these tiebreakers. So I went through that before we recorded, and I have as my number one seed in the AFC, I have the Buffalo Bills at 14-3. I also have Kansas City at 14-3, but they would drop down to the 2 seed. I have Kansas City losing to Houston in week 16. We'll get to full on score predictions, but who do you have winning that matchup this week? Houston or Kansas City?
Probably Houston.
Mahomes is questionable, right?
Yeah.
So, and
they're downplaying his injury too.
Oh, you think it's worse than they're actually saying?
Yeah, I do. And if he's not, even if he does play, if he's not 100%, I have this actually written down in my tidbits talking about the injury to Mahomes. If they're downplaying it, or even if they're not downplaying it, if he's not 100%, do they start? We've talked about it week in and week out how close each one of their wins has been. So if he's not 100%, do these games start turning the other way? These close, these narrow victories, do they turn into losses because Patrick Mahomes isn't 100%? And I fully believe that that's the case. So yeah, I would probably take Houston this week.
And then their last 2 games, they're at Pittsburgh, and then they are at the Broncos, and I have them split in one of those games. They either lose to the Steelers or they lose the Broncos. I have them losing to the Steelers more than the Broncos, but that would put them at that 14-3 record. Buffalo, I mean, they faced New England twice, once at home, once on the road, and then they faced the Jets. So it's a pretty much determination that Buffalo should win out the rest of their games. So I see Buffalo as that 1 seed. On the NFC side of things, it all boils down to week 18 and that Vikings and Lions game. Who knows what we're going to see out of Detroit? Montgomery, latest headline, injured reserve. Now they actually have an offensive weapon versus the defensive side of the ball that is hurt out for the rest of the season. That's a big loss for them. But that week 18 matchup against the Vikings not only could determine the NFC North, depending on what the Packers do when they play the Vikings in 2 weeks, but that for sure could be the deciding factor. I lean towards the fact that Detroit wins, beats the Vikings. I have them still as the number 1 seed. A little bit early to tell, but the Packers are essentially locked into that 6th seed. The only way that the Packers could not be on the 6th seed and go up to that 5th seed is if they beat the Vikings in week 17 and Detroit beats the Vikings in week 18, then we would move to the 5th seed. Otherwise, we're locked into that 6th seed. And that means that we would play either Tampa Bay or the Los Angeles Rams in the wild card. Now, if there's one team in the NFC that you don't want to run into that's not named Philadelphia or Detroit, who would it be?
Tampa Bay or LA Rams.
Tampa Bay would be at the top of my list.
Yeah, me too.
I don't even have them winning out every single game the rest of the season, but just Baker in the right mode. That's just one of those teams that you could look past just enough and they could be explosive that I don't want anything to do with them in the playoffs. I'd rather play the Rams than I would play Tampa Bay.
Yeah. God, but the Rams just beat the Bills.
Yeah. Well,
I don't know. It's that. I mean, both those teams are tough. I was kind of looking at it today a little bit. I mean, the Bucs have put up over 40 points many times this season. Like, I mean, they've had their ups and downs for sure, but when they're hot, they put up a lot of points. Granted, their defense has holes in it. They're kind of a pass funnel. So, if a team can keep up with them, it doesn't matter how many points they put up. But yeah, both those teams are scary. They're both getting hot at the end of the season here.
Yeah, I'd say the biggest determination would be this weekend. If Tampa Bay beats Dallas, then we would play the Rams. Otherwise, if Tampa Bay loses to Dallas, I see us playing Tampa Bay in the wild card. But
Well, and
it's fun.
Dallas didn't look too bad this last week. I mean,
They didn't.
they got it done.
I got Dallas winning that game.
Yeah.
Movie. So this is the best time of the year that,
Send me that link. I'd be interested to play around with that.
It usually starts right around week 14, and you can, do all the remaining weeks and try and cherry pick. But so it's entertaining to get your expert picks in there, what you think will happen, and then just kind of see how it shakes out. And then if you need one team to move one way or the other, you can be like more interested in this game to be like, okay, I really need this team to lose. Yep. So fun stuff. What else you got for tidbits?
Well, so we talked about the Jets and how crazy it is what's happened there. How about Atlanta?
Yeah.
How about Atlanta signing Kirk Cousins to this, not a massive deal, but a bunch of guaranteed money. Like, all right, this guy's our quarterback this year. And then they drafted a rookie quarterback in the first round. And now it came out today, as of Tuesday, they are benching Kirk Cousins, and Michael Penix Jr. will be the starter this week.
I did not hear that.
Yet Kirk Cousins is guaranteed $90 million this year. Like, what are you doing? Like, that just sounds so stupid. Like,
yeah,
I don't know. And now they're 7-7. They're
in the playoff hunt.
They're in the hunt, yeah, but the expectation was going to be we're going to be leading their division.
I mean, the Falcons have the Giants on Sunday, and then at Washington, followed by home against the Panthers. So 2 out of those 3 games should be, I'd probably favor them in 2 of those 3 games.
You're not going to take the Panthers against the Falcons in the last week of the season?
Not if it's for a playoff spot, no. So that's the thing. Are they in the hunt still?
Yeah,
Cousins has had a really bad stretch of games.
Yeah.
Like, very bad. Didn't he have interceptions last week?
Yeah. He's been throwing a bunch of picks, and then they played on Monday night, and even the commentators noted how the coordinator or whoever's calling the plays, they weren't calling pass plays. Like, they weren't letting him throw the ball because of how many picks he's thrown. And that's why he's benched now. So they won on Monday night, and they still benched him. It was the most boring game ever. There was like 1 touchdown the whole game, I think, early on.
I mean, they could probably... Yeah, I guess what do you do? At this point, you have 3 games, a little bit of a trial run with this rookie quarterback, and see what you got, if you got anything there. Maybe there's a little flash in the pan, and that gives you enough confidence you could trade Kirk Cousins and eat a lot of that cap. It's not gonna be free by any means, but you could definitely trade him away because you're paying a rookie quarterback pennies on the dollar in comparison. Get him off your roster, or maybe in this 3-game stretch, you see, he's got a lot of work to go still, and either keep Cousins another year, or maybe you draft another quarterback next year. The Atlanta Falcons upper management makes a lot of stupid moves. So who knows what ultimately will come from this. But yeah, I agree. It's no different than the Deshaun Watson thing up there in Cleveland. They have already said that he's going to be the starter next year. They're not giving up hope because they can't. They owe him all this money. Yeah, it's a bad situation to be in. And kudos to the Green Bay Packers for paying Love all that money and him actually being a decent quarterback. That makes a difference.
Yeah, it's just goofy. It's as soon as they drafted Penix in the first round, or Penix Jr., I was like, what are they doing? They just signed Kirk Cousins to a pretty lucrative deal. Like, now there's a chance that they start a rookie over him. And that's eventually what's happening.
Speaking of draft picks that you'd want to redo, what's the weakest position on the Packers roster right now?
That is a good question. Corner?
Corner. What's the
Outside.
strongest position? What's the strongest position on the Packers roster?
Safety.
Yeah, it's an interesting pick, I guess. How about that offensive line? I'd say that offensive line, all
Yeah,
five of those
offensive
guys
line is good.
have been great. They've been healthy. They've been good at their jobs. So have you seen the season that Cooper DeJean's been having out there in Philadelphia? He's like one of the top rookies in the class, just
Yeah, he's doing
balling
really well.
out. I would have loved to see Cooper DeJean versus Jordan Morgan. We could have gone a season without this offensive lineman in Jordan Morgan because we've hardly seen him at all the entire season, and we've survived. Hindsight's 2020, right? But if I could do a redraft, I would stick with my gut and take Cooper DeJean.
Yeah,
at
but
corner.
he plays. Does he play safety, or does he play corner?
He plays. He's kind of like a Keyshawn Nixon, where he does a little bit of everything. You could put him where you want him.
I mean, but we've got Evan Williams, who has been the highest graded rookie of any rookie for, a good chunk of the season at safety. Bullard, who has been a starter. So, I mean, I don't think that they missed out.
I think I don't know. I think he could have easily played. You could find a spot for him that's not safety. Valentine,
and I don't think
he had on Sunday against Seattle, but that was his first pick of the season. Why the hell he took it out of the end zone is beyond me. That was
his first pick of his career.
Yeah, okay. So there you go. And he took it out of the end zone. He was already tackled in the end zone, and he's like, I'm going to run it out and be a star. What are you doing? Eric Stokes, it's his last season as a Green Bay Packer. They will not bring him back unless it's a cheap contract. Jair, is Jair really as deadly? He's no, what was the island in New York? Revis. He's no Revis. Yeah. Jair's good, but he's not that real lockdown corner that we pay him all that money for. I'm telling you, if we don't draft a cornerback in the first or second round, or two of them in the first or second round, I'd be shocked next year because we have to address our cornerback room.
Yeah. So you agree? Corner is the weakest position?
I would agree, yeah. And I would have loved to have a time machine. We don't need Jordan Morgan. Maybe he'll come in handy. Maybe he'll have a great career, an illustrious offensive lineman career in the future. But looking at this roster right now, if we had a little bit more depth in that DB room, it'd be a lot better for our playoff or our Super Bowl run. So that's all I had to say on that. You got some tidbits? I always lose you. It's about 15, 20 minutes after 10. You're losing your energy. You got to bring it up here. We got to take this mother trucker home. Bring the energy, Christian.
Tidbits.
Okay.
Did you hear what Jason Kelsey said about the Chicago Bears after their loss to the Vikings on Monday night?
No.
Brutal. Jason Kelsey was brutal. His quote was, "Chicago has to prove that they belong in the NFL." Oofda.
Yeah, well, he's not wrong.
That's rough. Yeah, the Chicago Bears, I don't know. It's another interesting situation. You got the number 1 overall pick, quarterback, you got all these weapons around him, and they are terrible.
Yeah, that's the thing. If Jaden Daniels gets drafted by the Bears, if Bo Nix gets drafted by the Bears, do the Bears still bear at the end of the day? Are they still just the whole?
Right.
I've been thinking a lot about this the last couple of days. I was not a fan of the firing of Eberflus. I think how he handled the end of that Lions game a few weeks ago was absolutely awful. It's terrible. But had they kept him on the roster, do they turn this around at all? They did not look good at all against the Vikings on Monday night. Their offense is just terrible. They're so broken. They need a new head coach. They need a new offensive coordinator. They need probably a new GM, but I think they're going to hold out and keep him around for another season or two. It's absolutely crazy. And do you think that they're any better or any worse if they have Jaden Daniels or Bo Nix back there? I don't think it's a Caleb Williams problem.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't think so. I guess I don't think so either. It's hard to say. It's hard to say. I think that they need more pieces. I think they need more offensive line pieces. Like that's been a big issue this year. You know, it doesn't matter how many weapons Caleb Williams has, is if he can't stay clean in the pocket, he's never going to get it to any of them. I think that's been probably their biggest issue on offense.
But I thought that about Minnesota heading into the season was that their offensive line was really bad last year, and that they were going to struggle protecting any quarterback that they put back there. I even went as far as when I rebooted this or another before you joined on I did that Justin Jefferson video, and I'm like, it doesn't matter who they have back there at quarterback. Like Justin Jefferson's not going to get his targets, but he's had time. And he's been able to make passes because he's had time. It's been such a deciding factor for his success. And Darnold's playing great. The whole fucking Vikings team is. I'm done. I'm done throwing them under the radar.
Right.
They didn't play good on Monday night, but 12-2, they deserve a little bit of credit.
Yeah, definitely they do. And I thought it was going to fall apart at some point, and you know, hopefully it still does. Hopefully they rack up a couple more losses before the end of the season here. But yeah, it didn't fall apart like I expected it to. It was,
well, it's nice that
consistent.
Let's say both Vikings, Packers get through the wild card round, which seems likely. It's nice to have another team that can go against either Detroit or Philadelphia that you're like, they might upset them. And then we can play Vikings, you know, it's kind of a nice, and we're going to figure out whether or not we can stack up against Minnesota in 2 weeks. That is a good game. I'm looking forward to that game.
Yeah, I kind of have a bad feeling about what the Lions have going on, though, with all the injuries that they're dealing with.
Yeah,
I just have a feeling like it's going to fall. I mean, they just lost to the Bills, but Bills are obviously, I mean, we'll get to power rankings. Bills are the top team in the NFL in general. But just with all the injuries they're dealing with now, starting on the offensive side of the ball with Montgomery, you can only lose so many guys and stay afloat before things start to fall apart. So I don't know. I mean,
so they play Chicago, they play San Francisco, and then they close out the season with Minnesota, right? So a pretty lukewarm end of the season schedule. Like they can win 2 out of those 3 games, right? Even with the injuries and casualties. I look forward to your score predictions the next 2 weeks. But what I'm getting here is if they have to run into Green Bay again in the playoffs, there's no way the Packers lose to them 3 times in one season. I just don't. I don't see that happening. So if Minnesota has to face off against Philadelphia, I'm rooting for Minnesota 100% of that time. And truthfully, if that scenario plays out where Minnesota is a 6th seed, they have to face Philadelphia, Green Bay beats Detroit. Green Bay could literally host the NFC Championship game, a 5 versus a 6 seed for a trip to the Super Bowl. These are the scenarios that the playoff machine gives me, and by golly, they can happen, Christian.
That's
They
exciting.
can happen. Well, I'm losing you. It's 10:27. I'm losing you, Christian. Let's get into power rankings. You want to talk about power ranking?
Yeah, let's talk about power rankings. It's been a long week and a half.
All right, I hear you. Are you off tomorrow still?
Yeah.
Okay.
My kid's still sick, so whether or not I wanted to work tomorrow, it doesn't matter.
So updated the power rankings for you and I to reference a lot of similarities across the board here. You have Buffalo at 1 on your side, dropped Detroit down to 3, Minnesota ahead of Green Bay, and then kind of shocking is you have Kansas City all the way down at number 8, 13-1.
Yeah, man, I stand by what I've said all year. They've been winning by the skin of their teeth, and now with the Mahomes injury, like I talked about earlier, even if he plays, if he's not 100%, I feel like these close games start going the other way. So I don't know. I just have a feeling that they're in for a few more losses.
So looking at the power rankings, it has me kind of a little bit of a sidetrack conversation. I verbally spoke this to my dad while I was watching the game on Sunday. It doesn't feel like a Packers Super Bowl year at this stage of the game.
Yeah.
And the reason why is you look at Josh Allen out there in Buffalo, like he's playing out of his mind. They've gotten their face kicked into the playoffs so many times over the last couple seasons, but you have them at number 1 in your power rankings. It seems like, yes, go Buffalo. If this is your year, go do it. Detroit's right there with them. Now they're facing these injuries, to your point, as we just discussed, but up until these injuries have started to really encapsulate them, go do it. This is your year, go do it. And then you look at Philadelphia, as we have these 3 teams in the top 3 of both of our rankings, and you just have they've won 11 straight games. And with the way Saquon's playing out of his mind and the rest of the talent on that roster, it really just seems like those 3 teams, who we both agree are somewhere in the top 3, are destined for a Super Bowl to raise the Lombardi. And I hate saying that as a Packers fan. Anything can happen when we get the playoffs, and I will pick Green Bay every time in the playoffs. Don't get me wrong. But it really does seem like one of these 3 teams is destined to hoist that Lombardi trophy.
Yeah, it feels that way. But I mean, every year, like over the last few years, Buffalo has intrigued me. And the last place I worked, I'd do a playoff pool. So I'd make a bracket, and just everyone would make their picks for each week and who they thought was going to win the Super Bowl. And maybe not last year, but I know the year before I had Buffalo winning it all, just because I felt they were that good, and they feel that way this year, but they still fell short. So anything can happen. Any of these teams can get beat. The top of the NFL this year is very close together. So I feel like the Packers make the playoffs. A surprise happens before the Packers get to Eagles team or a Lions or whatever it may be. A surprise happens before that, and we're playing the Vikings or anything can
Buccaneers.
happen. Yeah, right. Yeah, I was going to say the Buccaneers, but yeah, it seems that it's going to be one of those 3 teams. But I've felt that way in years past with other teams, and it doesn't end up happening. So
no, and like I said, when playoffs eventually get here and the Packers are playing whoever, I'm gonna ramble for 30 minutes telling you exactly why Green Bay is gonna win that game, and I'm gonna go into it 100% confident they're gonna win, and we'll see how it goes. But what would be, if the Packers are not in the Super Bowl, what would be your dream Super Bowl matchup out of these teams?
Dream Super Bowl matchup: Eagles, Bills.
Really?
Yeah, I think that'd be a stellar game.
You really lost some love on those Detroit Lions.
I don't know, man. I just feel like they're on the verge of falling apart.
I mean, we just saw Bills versus Lions, and it was 48-42, a shootout. That would be an entertaining Super Bowl. And then one of those teams would win their first Super Bowl. That'd be my pick.
Yeah, that'd be exciting.
I don't want the Eagles anywhere near a Lombardi trophy again. Their fan base
Ultimately,
is awful. They already won one in the last 5 or 6 years. I just don't even get me started there.
Ultimately, if it's not Green Bay, I want to see Josh Allen win a Super Bowl. I really do.
Yeah.
So it doesn't matter who the NFC team is. If Packers lose in the playoffs and aren't going to a Super Bowl, I'm rooting for the Buffalo Bills.
I could see the Ravens upsetting someone in the playoffs.
Yeah.
Just they're up and down season. I think they're 9-5 right now, but they get into the playoffs.
Who said the Ravens were going to have an up and down season?
You did.
Oh,
but nobody heard that because nobody watches it. But I can see them as that team that you got Derrick Henry, Lamar Jackson, like get into the playoffs. I can see it. They were the 1 seed last year and got upset in the playoffs. I can see them being the upsetter this next year, this upcoming season. So, well, there's our power rankings. I didn't dive a whole lot into my right side of it. Both you and I added Denver and Tampa Bay to the 9 and 8 positions. Or excuse me, you had Tampa Bay at 10. I have Houston at 10. It's a horse apiece between those two teams. Baker looks really good at times, and so does CJ Stroud. I don't know if this is the first time we have the Broncos in the top 10 of our power rankings, but they're in there now.
And I've had them in. They've been in my top 10 the last 2 weeks, but they've been at 10.
Gotcha. So you moved them up. I'm really curious to hear what your score predictions are for Week 16. So we're going to dive into that. Because every time I say that this is going to happen, you just give me a blank stare. And I don't know whether it's because you're tired or you're like, no, I don't necessarily agree with that. So we're going to put it all on the line.
Let's do it.
I got 2 picks wrong last week.
That's pretty good. What is that?
A peace sign causes balloons to go off.
What?
All right. Rapid fire. Week 16 kicks off with a pretty good Thursday night football game. Broncos at Chargers. Who do you got in this one? Because I am taking the Broncos as well. Saturday, we get 2 games on Saturday. It's that time of the year. Houston travels to Arrowhead on Saturday at noon. We talked about Mahomes being injured. I am taking Houston in this upset.
You know what? I'm going to take KC just because.
Is this different than... Oh, wait, you didn't send me score predictions, did you?
No, I didn't.
Okay, okay.
No, I just feel like I agree. I feel like the Texans should win this game, but it's at Arrowhead. It's the Chiefs. I feel like the system is rigged against anyone who's playing the Chiefs. I don't know. I just feel like we'll still pull out a win.
All right, so we disagree on the Texans-Chiefs matchup. A good afternoon game as well. Steelers and Baltimore Ravens. Baltimore opens as 6-point favorites at home. I took the Steelers in this matchup.
Okay. I'll take the Ravens. I really think it depends on if George Pickens plays or not, the number 1 wide receiver for the Steelers. If he does not play, I think the Ravens win for sure. But if he plays, the Steelers have a better chance. But I'll take Baltimore.
Steelers were one of the teams I picked them over the Eagles last week, and I don't know why. It's more of a want pick than anything last week. Like I feel like Philadelphia's probably destined for that number 1 seed, so I don't know why I bet against them, but I did, and it burned me. It burned me bad last week. Real barn burner at noon on Sunday. We have the Giants facing off against the Penix Jr. Atlanta Falcons. I am taking... Oh, hold on. Let me look. I'm taking Atlanta in that game.
Yeah, I'll take Atlanta too. The Giants are just that bad.
Lions and Bears. Bears.
Oh, mine.
Got lost. Yeah, they lost their head coach after the last time these two teams faced off. One of the most frustrating, agonizing endings of the game I've ever seen. Bears are at home this time. Detroit is 6-point favorites. How are you feeling about these Lions?
I mean, I still take them to beat the Bears.
Yeah, I am too. I'm going to take the Lions really well. Browns and the Bengals face off. Bengals have been super disappointing this season. They are 6-8. I do not have them anywhere close to making the playoffs in my playoff machine. They might even be mathematically eliminated, actually. I have in my 7th seed, I have the Chargers making the playoffs at 10-7. So with 8 losses, Bengals are already out. But I do have the Bengals beating Cleveland on Sunday.
Are you sure the Bengals are mathematically eliminated? I was specifically looking at that.
My playoff machine says that they are mathematically eliminated because I'm not. I predicted the rest of the games, and they're not making the
okay. I think there's still a route for them to make the playoffs. I'll take the Bengals this week. It could happen. They're on a win streak. They've won the last 2 weeks in a row, I think.
Yeah, the Bengals face Denver in week 17 and Pittsburgh in week 18. So I'll give them the victory against the Browns, but I have them losing their last 2 games. So that's how I see the Bengals going. I'm going to send you that playoff machine. You're going to send me a screenshot of what you end up with.
How much time on that? Like, it's going to envelop my entire life. Like, that's what I'm going to be doing all the time.
And movements and all. Another barn burner on Sunday afternoon, Titans and the Colts. I have the Colts in that one.
I'll take the Titans.
All right.
Titans bench Will Levis this week.
So good things are going to happen.
Yeah, with Mason Rudolph.
What's your thing? Rams face off against the New York Giants, or not Giants, Jets. The New York Jets. Rams all day for me in that one.
Is it where is it? Is it in New York or is it in LA?
Why does that matter to you? Honestly, it's in New York.
It's in New York. I'll take the Jets.
Okay. All right. Sweet. I'm liking this. I'm pulling away. Eagles and Commanders. That's actually that's probably the best noon kickoff of the week. I don't see Washington being able to overcome the Eagles because the Eagles, you have the Vikings, Lions, the Eagles all at 12-2. So it's absolutely wild. One of these teams is going to come away with the first seed. I don't really see any of these teams really letting up. So I'm going to take the Eagles in this matchup.
Yep, me too. Washington has kind of squandered.
They are who we thought they were.
Yeah, they're kind of reverting back to the team that we thought they would be at the beginning of the season.
Yeah, neither you or I had Washington in our top 10. Yeah, so there's probably some reason behind that.
In my top 10 for weeks now.
Really?
I would say until this week they were maybe like on the cusp of getting there, but yeah, I don't think they're even close to the top 10 now.
I think I had them as high as 5 or 6 at one point.
Yeah.
Cardinals travel to Carolina to face off against the Panthers. I'm taking Arizona in that matchup.
You said it's in Arizona?
It's in Carolina.
I'll take the Panthers.
Okay. Oh. Those Panthers have gotten a lot more picks out of us than we expected the last couple weeks.
Yeah, they have. They've kind of turned things around a little bit. I mean, it hasn't turned into wins. I don't even know where I saw it. It was like a clip, or maybe I saw it on TV or something like that, but someone described the Panthers as having the same season as the Kansas City Chiefs, but every one of the close games has gone against the Panthers versus for the Chiefs.
Yeah.
So, I mean,
I love how I take Carolina to beat the Eagles, but I will take the Cardinals to beat the Panthers. That's football right there. A nutshell for you. Sunday afternoon, Vikings at Seattle. I don't know. Do we know what's going on with Geno Smith? He is not long-term injury?
I don't think he's playing. Well, actually, I'm not sure. I think it's still up in the air. Yeah, I'm not sure. But I don't think it matters.
Yeah, I don't think it matters either. I'm taking Minnesota. And you are too. Oh, you're not.
I don't know. I might maybe I take the Seahawks just to piss off the one Vikings fan buddy of mine that watches the podcast or pays attention to our Facebook posts at least. Derek. Yep. He doesn't like me picking against his Vikings.
Do it.
Yeah, screw it. I'll take the Seahawks.
Nice. I like it. Appreciate that. Thanks, Derek. Appreciate that. I got you. I'm taking the Vikings this week. Bills and Patriots. Bills. And that one.
Yes.
Jags and Raiders, real barn burner.
Ooh.
2-12 Raiders versus the 3-11 Jacksonville Jags. Vegas is at home, and I took Jacksonville.
Yeah, I'll take Jacksonville too.
Okay. 49ers travel to Miami. They are both 6-8. These were playoff teams at the start of the year, and they are now not playoff teams. So
Yeah.
I'll take Miami.
Wow, really?
Yeah.
I'll take San Fran.
What do you think they do with Brock Purdy next year?
I thought I saw something that they're sticking. Saw something the other day that they plan to stick with him. They plan to extend him, or yeah.
Wow.
You don't think that's the right call?
I don't.
Really?
I mean, it depends what you. I mean, it depends what you got to pay him. He's been making less than $1,000, or excuse me, $1 million a season, less than $1 million a season. I mean, maybe if you get him on a Baker Mayfield type of contract where it's 30 to 35 mil, yeah, I guess. But maybe that's a good thing for him. And he's probably perfectly happy with $30 million a year after making $1 million the last couple of seasons. So I don't know.
I don't know. He's still putting up good numbers. The Niners have gone through a lot of adversity this year with all the injuries and everything like that. Like, it's understandable that he had a couple of down games when he's got receivers that he's not used to.
Here's where I'm at with the Niners. If they don't go out there and find a better quarterback, better than Brock Purdy, it's over. If you have a fully healthy Christian McCaffrey, Kittle's getting older, Ayuk struggled with injuries, Devo, I think he's been hurt throughout the whole season. I don't really know. Like, they got weapons, and like a Brock Purdy caliber quarterback can do enough with that type of arsenal around him. But with everyone getting older, and I don't think McCaffrey comes back and is anywhere as good as the running back that he used to be next season. So I think they got to find a quarterback that can carry that team. And I don't think Brock Purdy is that guy. So my opinion is you move on from Purdy, you try to find a star quarterback. Maybe you go out and get Kirk Cousins. Kirk Cousins is going to be a 49er next year.
No.
Take it to the bank. Take it to the bank. Okay. Buccaneers and Cowboys on Sunday Night Football. You took the Niners, by the way, right? And I took the Dolphins?
Yes, I did. I did.
Tampa Bay travels to Dallas on Sunday Night Football. Tampa Bay opens as 4-point favorites. I did actually take Dallas in this game.
Okay. Yeah, I'll take the Bucs.
Yeah, it's probably the safe pick, but Dallas has shown some flashes the last few weeks where I like them in primetime. And then, last but not least, Monday night, we both took the Packers in a decisive blowout victory. That spread since the beginning of our last podcast has gone from 13.5 up to 14 points. So, blowout central. So there you have it. There's our score predictions. We'll have those posted on Facebook. We'll have our power rankings posted. Anything else you'd like to talk about before you go shut your eyes and fall asleep?
Yeah, I'm probably not going to sleep yet. I mean, I may look tired, but I don't sleep much. So
I'm going to send you that playoff machine. You'll be up all night.
Yes, I will. Yes, I will. You're going to send it to me right after we get off here. And that's what I'll be doing until about 2 o'clock in the morning, probably.
There you go.
So,
well, let's wrap it up. No, we're wrapping it up.
Oh, okay. Well, fine.
Okay. Let's wrap it up.
Wrap it up, kids.
Wrap it up.
Thanks
for checking out the overtime. If you have not subscribed, if you made it this far, as always, comment down below. We love to know who makes it the full 1 hour and 2 minutes into the recording. That is extremely impressive, and you will get a shout out in next week's video. So congratulations.
Shout out to Lewis for commenting on last week's video with his Packers score prediction.
Thank you, Lewis. You commented below it with the Ferg.
I did.
Address.
Yep. I did.
So yes, wrapping it up. Week 16 underway. So I got a couple more weeks. We're going to be really looking forward to talking about playoff football. And I really hope it lasts more than 1 week. So,
Merry Christmas, everybody.
cheers. Good night. Salud. Feliz Navidad.